for each other, I ain't never chased me. We was meant for each other, you ain't never chased me. We like a perfect love song, we never be off key. We got love for each other, you somebody that I need. On the phone non-stop, talking 7 days a week. I'm loving you, chase with love song, we never be off.
Welcome to the Marriage Grit. Come join us, share, invite your friends, anybody that you know. This is our broadcast for this Sunday. We're talking about, for this month, we've been talking about blended families. And we're so excited. We've been excited about the platforms that we've had over the last few weeks. And as this is our, no, this is not the last Sunday.
Is it?
No.
Memorial Day weekend?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm confused.
There is another Sunday in May. So we've been coming with you with all kinds of subject matters, or not subject matters, different couples relaying their information with regards to blended families, and we're excited once again for the couple that we have joining us today. This is an awesome couple. We've known them for a number of years, and they have a tremendous story. It's so encouraging, and of course, we want to be able to allow them to share their story with you. So again, share this live, invite people to come on and join us. If you have any questions or comments, feel free to submit them, and we'll address them as we see them again. So we're not going to hold you any longer. We have with us to present to you Pastor Ernie Stevens and Lady Stevens as well. So we're going to bring them on, and we ask that you would just, I can't say clap because they won't hear you clap. You can
Hey, everybody.
Thank you for joining us, Pastor and Lady Stevens.
I so appreciate this wonderful couple that we have here. I mean, just genuine, good people.
Yes.
And as everybody knows, and we've been having a conversation over the last couple of weeks, every single month we have a specific topic that we focus on, and we've been having our co-authors on with us. But I just, Swan and I were talking, we just felt the need to have this particular couple here with us. Been good friends of ours for years. Who, we've rocked and rolled, played basketball together back in a couple of years ago. Try to stay young and get it in.
Amen.
But I mean, this couple, when we talk about marriage grit, grit is we tell couples all the time. For those that's been following us, marriage is not work, but it's thousands and thousands of various experiences that we face. And this couple right here that we have on with us, Pastor Ernie Stevens and Lady Ann Stevens, that's here. We've watched you all grow and flourish. We've not just that, but our topic this month is blended families, right?
Oh, my goodness.
And like we tell people all the time in the conversations we've been having is blended is a robust definition.
Yes.
Right? It's robust. It's not just that I have a child to be brought into the relationship. It's robust, whether it's adopted, whether it's in term people don't like stepkids.
Yes.
It's a lot. So with that being the case, welcome to the show. And if you can, if y'all can just tell us about how long you've been married, tell us about the family that we're going to talk about today. Just share a little bit about that kind of stuff with us.
Yes.
Amen.
Well,
before we get into it, first we want to say thank you guys for inviting us, and we are so happy of the ministry that you've taken on for marriages. With so many divorces and unhappy marriage. This ministry is called for in the end time, and that you guys took up the mantle and the responsibility to speak to marriages. Even when I do marriage counseling, I tell people to tune in to Marriage Grit. So we're fans of y'all's. We're fans, and we tell people tune in. Even in one of our comedy clips, that we do, we start fighting and say, just tune in to Marriage Grit because we don't know what we're doing.
Amen. We're trying to work it all out, y'all.
Yes, but this is we've been married for 23 years, coming up on 24 years. Somewhere in that vicinity. We have 6 children, all blended from adopted to step to natural. So we have a whole slew of children and grandchildren. And like you said, we've been working at this for a long time. We don't claim to have it solved yet. We just claim that we just working at it every single day.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I just, you guys all right?
Got attacked by the sign.
I just wanted to say too, this is right up my alley, because all I really know is about blended family. I'm personally from a blended family. I have a huge family. I have 5 brothers and I have 3 other sisters. And both of my mom and my dad are on their second marriage. So my dad got custody of his kids. And of course, my mom had 5 kids, so she had custody of her kids. And then when they got together, they had 2 more. So there was 9 of us all together. So
Wow.
I grew up in this family. So I can say with experience, you know, it wasn't easy. We had challenges, but you know what? It came around full circle. Amen. And I so appreciate that. What I want to share, and I was telling my husband, I really wanted to share this and get a props to my dad. Maybe, let's say around 10 or 15 years ago, back home, my brothers were having a discussion with my dad. And like I said, everything comes back full circle if you're patient and if you work it out. It was so beautiful because my brothers asked my father if they could take on his last name. Amen. They just came to a relation, just realizing that my father had input so much into their lives, and that them as adult men in their 30s and 40s had come to a place to realize that my dad was an awesome father and did so much for them. And now as grown men, they can appreciate it. They wanted to take on his last name.
That's
Wow.
a beautiful blend.
I mean, everything that we went through, you know what I mean? Good times,
Right.
in their 30s and 40s. These are grown men saying, you know what, you have been such a father to us, and we realize that, and we want your last name. But my father said, no, being such a good man, he was like, no, you don't want to do that. Your father is a great man also, keep his name. But I just wanted to share that. Every time I think about that and think about my dad and what my dad has done and been to our family, it makes me want to cry, and my brothers and sisters, my half brothers and sisters, we don't even say that we're half and step.
Right.
Or that tight, that it's never been like that. My real sister, I feel just as close to my real sister as I do my half sister. So we have always been one unit, brother and sister. It's never step, half, none of that.
Right.
We roll together, we rock together, and those are my brothers and sisters. So none of that. We had our fights and we had our troubles, but you know what? Through thick and thin, we are brothers and sisters, and that's that.
That's such a valuable point, and that you bring up. And we had a couple on last week that we spoke with. And so let me ask you this question, and I know you guys are going to get into more details as it relates to your specific family right now. Mm-hmm. But having grown up in a blended family, did you ever feel that you would have your own blended family as you got married and move on with your own personal life? Was it ever a thought or feeling, or just kind of live life and go on with it?
I knew for me personally, no. No. Right. After I became a widow, I really didn't think that I would be married again or have any other children. So that's something that the Lord did for me. I don't know. What do you think about that?
She really didn't think she was going to. Yeah. I proposed 3 times. She said no 3 times. So she said no. She was anti-blended.
Did you ever think that?
No, I mean, of course, I never thought that I would have a blended family. I didn't mind kids because I always loved kids, but I never thought that I would marry someone with a child.
Mm-hmm.
So talk about for a moment your specific situation that you guys have right now. Like I said, we go way back, and I see your kids flourishing and graduating college and high school.
Amen.
Yes.
And what's interesting, you guys have been successful, and I have seen what you guys have been doing over the years. One thing you never do, man, and I appreciate it. You like Ann just said, you never give the alienation of stepchild. You know, not that these are negative terms.
Right.
Bonus child. You know, you never give give that alienation of a child. You guys celebrate your kids no matter who they are. So talk about that particular process that you guys are dealing with now.
Well, I say when we start from the beginning, like we have a total blended. When I say blended, because it was Ann's second marriage because she had just lost her husband, and she had a child who was 2 years old, I guess, when he had passed away. So when we started dating and finally got married, I had to deal with a blended family from the aspect of she was still dealing with the memory of someone that she lost. So not only did I have to include the child in the blended family, but I had to include her former husband because she was a widow. They didn't leave on bad terms or anything. So, you know, she still had a heart for him. And I had to give her that space to talk about him whenever she wanted to celebrate his birthday. Not only that, because it was her former husband, but it was also Brandy's father. So I always wanted to give that space. So we not only blended from a stepchild, but we also had to blend the memory along with it. And we still have conversations 23 years later, you know, if she ever feels like she needs to talk or Randy needs to talk. So we blended the memory, we blended the child. And for me, it was a little unusual, you know, because then we had Kiera. And then when we had Kiera, other people knew the difference between which child was mine and which was Brandy's. So I remember we were at church one time and somebody said, "Oh, you guys got a new baby. We want to take a picture." So me and Ann stood with the picture holding Kiera as a baby, and Brandy came in the picture and they said, "Oh no, baby, we just want to take a picture of them." Whoa. And they took the picture and I seen Brandy's face just kind of drop. And it was from that point on that I realized as a father that I had to do a balance beam. You know, we say balance and usually we think it's even, but balance is, you know, when you see a man on a tightrope and he's holding the stick for balance, it'll go left to right, to have the balance. So I had to tip the stick towards Brandy where I had to give her extra attention, even over my own Kiera, so that she felt a part. I wanted to give her extra love, extra attention, because the extra brought balance for her, because I think at that point she was feeling a little left out because people were leaving her out. Right. So when I started overdoing it on that side, we started getting a great relationship. Sometimes I forget she's not mine. Well, one time she was explaining what it was like in the birth room having Brandy, and I was like, yeah, I remember that. And I was like, oh, I wasn't even there. That's how much mine she is now. So
that's so profound. And I'm sorry, but that's one of the things that drew me to your story. Just even watching your broadcast that you had put on. Many people don't talk about this aspect of dealing. So we were talking about supporting your spouse through death, life and death, and to have to be in a position where you're supporting your spouse, you know, and for Ann, being able to support her mourning and her grief of her previous husband, and still, you know, working together to build, you know, you two. And how you work through that and how successful. I mean, it's 23 going on 24 years, and it's the experiences. Like, so, like we say, it's not work, but how you experience and go through those experiences and those moments to navigate and make it, you know, work for your relationship.
Yes.
So I really, really do appreciate your story and the fact that you were willing to share and brought that point out, because people just don't talk about that.
Yeah. And it's when you blend families, you know, we had pictures of him up around the house along with our pictures as well. So for her it was a second marriage. For me it was first marriage. For her it was widowhood. And for me it was a new experience. So, you know, blending all those experiences together, not to say everything was a vacation, it was challenging, but it worked. And how did you feel?
Well, what I appreciate about Ernie is, even when we were going through the dating process, he took the time to actually go get books on widowhood, read scriptures in the Bible, just so that he can understand and get a clearer picture of what I was going through. And he took the time also with Brandy, and I think that's what drew me to him. You know, this kind of man, you know, what he didn't have to do those things. So, you know, I think that's what kind of got my trust, and just really made me know that, you know, even though I was still kind of going through my things, that he was the one, because he put that time in, trying to learn everything that he could about me, right? And that's so very important. You know, if you want to know your spouse, you know, and you want to know what they're going through, you know, you have to, you know, sometimes educate yourself, especially if they're going to go through a certain something. So, you know, he didn't talk about that, but he went out and bought books about
That's
That's so very profound, and that's our point, right, with the marriage group, because and you know, to get back to one of our, you know, the marriage group conversations, we talk about marriage, right? And you all have, you know, have been through a lot of different things. And so, you know, so if we take marriage and we look at this as just experiences and not being the actual work, and I talk to you all the time, the work in marriage is not particularly on the union. The work is us working on ourselves.
Yes.
There's an effort that we have to put in to make the union become one. And you mentioned something, right? You mentioned a specific point that now I think is so profound, where the work aspect was earning going out and getting the books and getting the information and reading, because I feel like I got to work to make us become more effective as a couple.
That's right.
And that's so valuable, man. And I don't think people get that, because if we keep looking at marriage as being work, we would think about it. You know, we all have jobs, and we look at job as being work, right? And when you get tired of the job, what do? You quit, right? You find something different to do.
That's right.
Or look for something else. And so from our perspective in marriage, you can't keep concluding that it's work, because you can't keep looking for something else, because this is the plan A through Z, right? So from you all, you've touched on so many different things, from a grieving process to the blending process to the kids aspect. And one part I want you guys to touch on is that photo. And we know Brandy is a phenomenal young lady. Her and her husband Kevron, phenomenal family. Touch on the aspect of the church, right? The church aspect. And because I know it's very difficult, because you all know there's a lot of tradition involved in church, right? a lot of tradition involved. We have tradition, then we have the word, right? So talk about the acceptance or not, or any struggles you probably have been through from a church perspective or religious perspective, the blend that you guys have with your family.
Absolutely. When we talk about church, you said it, that we come from such a traditional background where it was church 6 days a week. You know what I'm saying? But that kind of pressure of church can put a huge pressure on families. Puts huge pressure on families. Even so, sometimes I think we took it out of balance in the old school church, because they would say it's God, church, then family. But you know, I had to reverse that in my household and say it's God, family, then church.
Right.
You know, we move as a unit in church, but sometimes what happened, like we would plan family vacations around national conventions. You know what I'm saying? Family getaways around church. So the kids were like, listen, like, we don't do nothing together. Like, what you mean? We was just in Harrisburg.
Right.
Like, we were trying to go to church.
Hotel and everything, man.
Yeah, so I'm like, y'all unsaved. You know what I'm saying? Y'all ain't holy. But I think we got to the point where we understood that family is separate from church. Even so much so that we would plan vacations and we would say, okay, we're not going to church. And I think the scary part was, like, I thought we were getting away from God, was actually it brought the children closer to God, because the children don't grasp the concept of God. They grasp the concept of God through you as parents. So their revelation of God comes through how well you are as a mother and how well you are as a father. They don't grasp the spiritual aspect because they're children, but God gets revealed through the way that you parent. So, you know, we started focusing on, we made sure we did vacations that didn't involve church, you know, not because we were unholy, but because we wanted to focus on the family and church. But they still knew that we were a family after God's own heart. They knew that, you know, that I was all about God. My wife was all about God. You know what I'm saying? But sometimes they need to see you in a different light. Like, how do you guys operate outside of church? So, you know, when you go to the beach, when you go to the Sixers game, or when you go just in entertainment, and the revelation of the Father comes through the way that we parent. So a lot of times when kids get older and they leave church completely, it's not so much they didn't have a grasp of God, it's because we never reflected God through our fatherhood or through our motherhood.
That's right.
That's such a valuable point. And, you know, and Swan and I, you know, we actually, that's the same revelation that we had years ago, man, in raising our kids. And I look back on my personal experiences, you know, growing up in church. And I remember being a kid and, you know, having youth ministry with 100 kids and children's choir, 100 kids in the choir. And then fast forward now and look at some of those same kids, like, wait, am I the only one still in church?
Right.
like what just happened?
Right.
And I took that hard look at my personal relationship with God and had to realize, am I really living for God, or am I really just focused on the traditional aspect?
Yeah.
You know, and I think that's a lot of problems that we've all had, man. You know, we feel like it becomes tradition. Think about it. It's Sunday, so we should be in church right now. Not because I love God, but because I should be in church because it's Sunday. You know?
Right, exactly.
So, and the kids, they do in fact live vicariously through us as parents. And that's a hard pill to swallow, man.
It is.
It's a hard pill.
It's tough.
Exactly. And I think what we do with church tradition too, because a lot of times you'll find that wives are coming to church, but maybe the husbands aren't. And we don't find reconciliation a lot of times because sometimes wives make the church the alpha male in their house. And when that happens, men are competitive.
Right.
Men are competitive. So, yeah, like, listen, if I say, listen, babe, we're going on vacation, and you tell me I can't go on vacation, that's the women's weekend. You know what I mean? That's the women's revival. Now, a man is like, okay, wait a minute. Like now I got to compete with the church for your attention and for your affection. Now, all of a sudden, and then when you invite him to church, obviously he's going to be like, I'm not, were you crazy? I'm not going to church to somebody I'm competing with.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Men are competitors. You know, you watch Jordan documentary. That's how men feel like, listen, I'm gonna beat that. So if we can't beat it, then we'll leave it. So, you know, women are praying like, oh, bring my man to church. Well, first we have to honor him in the house.
Wow. That's really strong right there. I really appreciate that comment.
Yes.
Absolutely.
So let's talk about, because we were talking about blended families. How about if you can think of some discipline struggles? I know we have a lot of couples out there, and also if anybody that's out there that, you know, just to take a little pause for a second, if you have a question, please post the question. Put it across the screen so we can get your questions answered also. So let's talk about discipline, because, you know, we have families right there. We have all different sorts of blended families, no matter how it might be. But we also know, and Swan and I have this conversation all the time, we both were raised in totally different households, right? Yes. And there was totally different opinions on discipline in Swana's house and in my house, right? Yes. So if you can for a moment, just share about discipline. How in the world do you work through all the kids that you have and kind of come to one conclusion on how we're going to take care of our kids and discipline?
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, I know our kids are probably watching, so listen, we were strict. Now that our kids are grown, they comment all the time, like, y'all was,
they have feedback.
Yeah, they was like, y'all was on another level. But I think it was not because we were so strict, but we were also fearful. We were fearful not to lose our children to this world. So looking back, we just did a Bible study on parenting. And through this Bible study, I learned that maybe I didn't always make the best decision because as African American parents, you know, our thing is always behavior. Act right, act right. You go to church, act right.
Yeah.
You know, you're at home, you better act right. No back talk. You know what I mean? That was our main. But the one thing that we don't focus on as African Americans in our culture is destiny. Like, why is this child here and where are they going? Like, even though we prepared them for the future, I don't think we focused enough on destiny. Like, where is God calling these children to? Because God has made me the manager of their destinies.
Yeah.
My main goal is, yo, don't embarrass me.
Yeah.
You know, like we in church, don't embarrass me. I'm gonna fire you. You know what I'm saying? You know, that was our main. I'm gonna fire you up. I'm gonna get you. I mean, pull the belt out in a minute.
Yeah.
But I think where we got off track is we thought that it was one discipline fits all.
Yeah.
And all of our children were completely different.
Yeah.
Like some of them were hard headed, like you had to get the belt. Others, you could just say something and their little hearts would be broken because they were more sensitive.
Right.
So we had a one size fits all approach. And I think that kind of, we learned later that maybe that wasn't the best way to do it. You know what I'm saying? Like everybody get whipped. Like one person do it, everybody getting beat.
Everybody. But you know, that's interesting though, because I think, and I think it's first of all, it's not easy being a parent. That's number one, whether blended or not. And I grew up in a blended family also, but it's definitely not easy being a parent. But I think that's the thing about parenting, is that there's adjustments that happen along the way.
Yeah,
absolutely. I think the absolute worst parents are the ones that don't make the adjustments,
right?
Exactly.
Like that says, you know, and granted, don't get me wrong, like what I say goes is how it's going to be.
Yes.
We have different personalities with our kids.
Yes.
And every child sees situations differently. And as parents, like we do, and I don't know if I want to admit this publicly, but we do like make crazy decisions sometimes.
Yeah.
Right?
Mistakes.
Yeah. I think
mistakes.
Our natural default, I said this in the Bible study, is sometimes our natural default is anger for no reason. Like a child would just say, "Can I go outside?" Like, no.
Right.
And like, why are you screaming? Like, you know.
Right.
And I remember when I did this Bible study. My son I think he was a junior in high school, and he asked if he'd go to his friend's house. Now, usually you don't consider like if their clothes, you know, is it safe? Is okay? Your natural default is no.
Right.
So I was like, yeah, sure. And he's like, wait, what? And I was like, yeah, you can go. And it caused such a mass hysteria in the family because he texted the other kids who were moved out. Like I said yes. And they're texting me. It's like, oh my God, you got it so easy compared to the rest of them. But I had to think about it. Like, why is my natural default always no? Like we just, without consider, like we just like, no. You know, and then when we're at church, they really think you're hypocrites because you're yelling at them and somebody else comes to you. You're like, oh, God bless you. How are you? How are you? And the kids were like, can I go to the bathroom? No. Like, right. Everybody but me.
No, listen, my default is so serious, and my kids will tell you, I wasn't bought a no button from home. I bought a button that it gave no and all different kind of variants. I could push the button. In fact, you know, my two oldest girls, I had this screenshot that I made myself saying no, and it was just crazy. So I would just text it out to them just because everything's no. You know what I mean?
Right. Right. That was us.
Yeah.
That was us.
Absolutely. Well, another thing I wanted to touch on, you know, I'm loving this discussion. And I think when it comes to discipline, especially learning, especially, you know, when it's your child and you're trying to, you know, have trust that your spouse is going to discipline your kids fairly. I mean, it starts right here. I mean, the two of you have to come to an agreement that cannot be broken, cannot be swayed. If you two, husband and wife, are not on one accord, I'm telling you, those kids will work you. So first of all, husband and wife have to, without a single doubt, be on the same accord. Amen. You might, you know, disagree a little bit, but you talk it out. But pretty much the answer has to come back to the children that you two are on the same accord, because they will get you every time. Every time. And I know so many that didn't make it, their marriages didn't make it because they didn't quite trust the other spouse to make the correct decisions, or they couldn't allow that trust. You know what I mean? So many marriages, I know of so many marriages that have broken up over that reason.
That's so true. So true. Wait, Aaron,
I'm sorry, I was just gonna say, and I commend Ann. You know, we had the discussion not long ago that she felt like she had to step back to allow me to father Brandy.
I did.
And that was a twofold thing. One, she not only had to trust me as a husband, she had to trust me as a father. And two, she felt like she was abandoning her previous husband because he passed away.
Yes.
Like she was abandoning him by letting me parent. So
Yes.
for her to step back
Yes.
and allow me. And the one thing is for sure, when women get married with kids, you might trust the man as a husband, but they often don't trust him as a parent. And that can cause a little ricochet in the household for sure.
And I want to just point out this comment made by your son, actually, which was just profound, I think. And it speaks to your parenting.
Right.
Because he says that we recognize that parents take on a lot, so we should give them grace. And for a child to really understand that is just amazing. That speaks to the parenting that he has to have that thought, that mindset. So that's awesome. And I think
that's awesome. I'm gonna cry.
To be honest, I paid him a 20.
I was about to say, you must have paid him, Ernie.
Guys, it's tough. Sometimes it can be so tough, and we want to talk about our godchildren. Why don't you bring that?
Yeah.
About Ray, and then
we decided to adopt our one of our godchildren. And she came when she was about 13, 12. Yeah. So that was another layer to the mix. Now it's stepchildren, adopted children, and natural children. And we wanted to show her something different, and we wanted to get her through school. That was all of our goals. But again, as parents, you just, you try your best, but you don't know everything. So now that I look back on it, we were tough on her. We were tough on Ray. But now I look back, I never considered like that she had left. She was 12 years old, and she had left her environment. She had left her family. She had left the West Coast, and now she's on the East Coast. And my expectation was for her to do exactly as my other children. Like, you better be happy. I'm feeding you. I'm sending you to school, and shut up. Like, so when she expressed any type of displeasure, like, I would go completely off the handle. Like, how dare you? Like, you know what we're doing? And I think one time we had come to a point where I was so mad at her because, she was upset and a little depressed. And I was like, I'm working extra overtime. I'm feeding you. I'm putting you to school. So I was like, you got to go. You got to get out. So I called her people, was like, yo, she leaving. So my wife was like, honey, calm down. You know what I mean? And she really was the grace mechanism. And I'm so glad that she did intervene, because I wasn't giving that child the grace to hurt. You know what I'm saying? Like, whether we know it or not, children hurt.
They do.
And
they go through.
we don't recognize their feelings. Sometimes we're just like, yo, be quiet. You don't know what I'm going through. Like, and
I think what's interesting, and you brought up a good point, and we heard it last week with a couple that we had on here. The Cooleys were on here talking about the same situation. And what's interesting, and you mentioned the same exact thing, Ernie. You talked about, you was like, hey, listen, it's time for her to go home, right? Yeah. Ann was like, no, let's process this first. So the point is, it's the balance is so valuable as it relates to parents.
Right.
Whenever there's one ready to throw the towel, when the other one's like, you threw the towel, I'm going to catch it, right?
That's right.
And not let this towel hit the ground. And it's so important for couples just to remain on the same page, because frustrations happen. But that's why we exist as couples. Through these experiences, we're going to always be in the same book, at least, right?
That's right.
Might be in different chapters, might be on different pages, but we're going to stay in the same exact book.
Same book.
Yeah, I think it's so valuable.
That's right. I think it was it Abraham, where Abraham made a decision and Sarah made another decision. Abraham was like, I'm the man. And then the Lord spoke to him and said, hearken to the voice of your wife.
Right.
Like, we don't always have all the answers. So
Yeah,
even
we
in that particular spot, when she was like, "No, we gotta show some grace here,"
Yeah.
and I'm glad that she had intervened because now Ray is graduated high school, graduated college with her degree,
Right,
now
right.
getting her master's, and
Yeah.
she got a job as a social worker. Then she got promoted to director. About to get married, so she is. I mean, she shot through. Like all of our kids, I'm just so proud of all of them
Right.
for what they're doing. But I can speak to also is that we focus so hard on being good parents that sometimes it jeopardizes the marriage.
Yeah.
And sometimes even in counseling, I see that where I see a good father and a good mother, but being a good father doesn't make you a good husband, and being a good mother don't make you a good wife.
100% correct.
Yeah.
So even when we hit a low in our marriage because we were so focused on the kids,
Yep.
and I was so focused on being a good father. She
Yep.
was so focused on being a good mother that my level of husbandry was going down. Her level of wife was going down because we wanted to be good parents so much that we jeopardized each other's marriage because we wanted to be mother, father.
Yeah.
And it was like to the point where we just started calling each other mom and dad.
Yeah.
Right. Look at all the day.
I asked mom, and then when I say I'm like, Mom, and she's like, Dad.
But I tell you what, but talk about, but because that's so valuable. I mean, it's because that's kind of how we do.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
but what brought you back? What brought you back to the reality of, hey, like we are parents, but we still are together in a relationship. So what brought you back to recognizing that we got to stay on point with us being husband and wife?
I think what brought us back is that we were just arguing. I mean, we were arguing constantly, and I couldn't figure out where she was coming from. I was like, what she talking about? Like,
we've had seasons where we almost threw in the towel. So
Several times.
several times
Right.
because we let that go, and we became more wanted to be the best mother. He wanted to be the best father, and like you said, we kind of let us go and put the kids in front of us. So, yeah, go ahead.
But you know, and sometimes people can do that because they don't know how to make us work. Let's keep putting stuff because think about it. You know, we hear couples all the time say, "Listen,
Yes.
we're married because of the kids. When the kids are gone, that we don't know what to do."
Yes.
The different levels of family. We have that empty nester situation where we've had kids for years and years. Now kids are going now, just me and you. Like that's what we do.
Yeah.
And it's so important to find the balance and make us work and make this whole family thing work. You know, and I think it's so. Ursula mentioned something that's wonderful. Giving a child the grace and space to hurt. Giving a child grace and space to hurt, because as we have the conversation about blended families, we talk about the process of grieving, right?
Yes.
About all these different things, and not only does it impact the husband and wife, it certainly impacts the child, and it will come out at some point. How do you deal with, as a couple, how do you deal with the grieving aspect of a child? You have the child you brought that you adopted into the home, the child that lost the father. How do you deal with the grieving process of a child that's going through all kinds of experiences that is not your fault? Or maybe you're at the hand of the situation. How do you deal with that process?
Well, I think recognizing the pain that the child has pain is huge, because like I said before, as Black parents, we don't always give them the space to hurt. We just want them to act right. And, and how do we measure success as a parent? Like, are you eating?
Right.
You got your head. That's how we measure success. But even in that, we had Brandy was our oldest. She was getting older, and we were trying to prepare her for college. And then Ray came, and she was adopted, so we were trying to make sure that she was comfortable. But what we didn't notice is our middle child, Kiara, who was our youngest, started to feel a little alienated. So when she started acting a little funny, our first instinct was beat her. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
stop acting like this.
Yeah.
But it wasn't until I guess she had an argument and had a little breakdown. Like, just she started screaming about how she hated, I hated that you came here. I hate my sisters. Like, and then, it hit me. Like, my first instinct was, you don't talk about your sisters. Like, I'm gonna be, but then we had to give her space to hurt.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? She's like, what about me?
Yeah.
Yeah, you forgot it.
Devastating.
So again, that balancing act where you put the pole, the balance yourself. So now we realized we had to put more balance on care. So we couldn't give all the kids birthday parties because we were broke. So we would pick and choose, like, okay, you had a birthday party last year, so this was her year to do something where we throw her a party. It wasn't spectacular, but we got her a bike. We just tried to show her more attention, to try to balance the family out.
Right. That's the hard part, man. It's so hard. Like, Dewan and I, we have 5 kids. It's so hard, like, as a parent, especially a young parent, when you kind of struggling through life, struggling not just to make ends meet, but to have them introduce themselves to one another. You know what I mean?
Right.
So, you go through the process, and as you struggle early on in life, and then as you get to that third and fourth child, you kind of come up a little bit.
Right.
And those kids see stuff that older kids didn't see. They're like, wait, mom and dad, like, we didn't get these things that they're getting.
Right.
And it's hard.
It is hard. And then we had the nerve to bring in another child, who we call our 6th child, which was our other godchild, but she was grown. She was in her 20s.
Right.
But she was in a situation where I was like, enough's enough. You coming to stay here.
Yeah.
So she moved all of her stuff, moved her kids, and she lived with us for a short period of time. But we brought her into the dynamic, just like if we say family portrait, everybody's taking it, even though she didn't come to her 20s. You know what I mean? So that was just another rock to put into the family dynamic that you still manage to this day.
That's right. So this last comment, which is very, very key, by Joy Stevens, says, when you
Mama. That's mom.
Mama,
Mom.
Bringing the wisdom here. And when you find balance while the children are with you or are there, you will find balance when they leave. And so that's profound. For us as a couple, as a husband and wife, we'll find balance of how to work it out, with the children being there. And then you'll learn through those experiences how to balance that empty nest household to then be able, because you have that expertise in the balancing act, as you say.
That's right.
Be able to find that balance once again, even with yourselves while the children are not there.
That's right.
We definitely appreciate that, those comments and everything. We appreciate your time. And before we wrap this up, we want to just give you the opportunity to end off with any tips that you want to give our viewers who are listening now or who may watch after at the replay. And also, because you guys have a church ministry, things of that nature, we want to be able to share. If people want to know how to get in contact with you, of course they can leave their comments here, but you're more than welcome to share that information as well.
So we'll get off the screen and kind of, like you said, share all that wonderful stuff.
All right.
Yeah, I appreciate this conversation.
Yeah, thanks so much, guys.
We really appreciate it. But you know what? There's not one right answer. It's complex, a lot of dynamics, and we make a lot of mistakes. But like I said in the beginning, just based off of my growing up, everything will balance out and it comes around full circle if you will continue in patience and if you continue in love. Hey, look, right? We're going to make mistakes. And our children, when they get grown, they will let you know the mistakes that you made, and you have to think about it. And, sometimes we have to own up to it. But we did make some mistakes, or we could have did this or that better. But, it's all good. It's all good in the neighborhood. But I think with love and with patience, it all comes back around. And I think all of our kids are proving that now. They love each other, they love us, and we talk about the stories, the good times and the bad times. It comes full circle. And I thank God for that, and there's not one correct way to doing things. So don't look at one family and envy that family, because you don't know what's happening, what's really going on inside their home. They might look on the outside like they have everything together, but they could be struggling or going through a whole nother process, because it is a process. And there's many ways, many ways to get this thing right.
Amen. Listen, my mama commented, you have to have balance with your children so you have balance when they leave. I don't want her to have balance. I want her to hurt when I left. But listen, if I have any final thing to say, I would say, listen, if you're a step parent, don't try to love through the other parent. If you're a step parent, you have to establish your own relationship with those kids outside of the mother or outside of the father. When I would take Brandy, it would just be me and Brandy. You know, when we did basketball and I was training her in basketball, it was just me and her. We found our own relationship. I just didn't want to find a relationship through and to find her. You have to establish your own relationship with that stepchild. So, you know, you be diligent with that, because once you take it on, you're not just a husband, you're also a father. So you have to take that child on as if it's your own blood. So I just want to put that out there, and don't give up, because you will go through trials and tribulations, hardships. Don't give up. And even as we got caught up in parenting, we forgot about each other. We returned our focus on each other. So we try to do at least once a quarter an overnight getaway where it's just the two of us. Listen, find a babysitter, because your parenting is only as strong as your marriage sometimes. So the marriage is the foundation for the parenting. So you got to work on the foundation, which is the parenting, which is the husband and wife is the foundation for the parenting. So listen, love your stepchildren, love your adopted children, love your spouse. Most of all, love Jesus Christ. And listen, if you have any questions for us, we're Brighter Way. You can find us on Facebook under Brighter Way. And again, we give another shout out to Minister Poppy and Lady Tawana.
You guys are doing an awesome job. Oh my gosh. We love your ministry. We thank God for your ministries, because so many marriages are failing, and we need this. We need this in a day and time, you know, we do. We actually do. And you guys are doing a fantastic job. I'm telling you, oh my God, what the Lord has given you to, I'm telling you, he's going to take you guys higher and higher and higher. Amen. And we're praying for you, because we know how the enemy works. We know how the enemy works. So when you get up there, you know, he wants to tear you down, because you're doing something in the kingdom. You're making such an impact in the kingdom of God. And we love it. We love it.
I really appreciate that. Actually, we're actually on location right now. We're not in our creative studio where we normally are. I was going to bring on. I was looking at some stuff the other day, and I found a script. For this wonderful play.
You remember
that you allowed us to be in.
That was awesome.
Oh my goodness.
That was awesome.
Listen, we appreciate you guys being on with us. We love the conversation. We got to get back and do it again. You know, we do our wonderful marriage bit events, and we'll have you guys out to talk again to some couples. And
absolutely.
Keep spreading this gift that God has given us is something we kind of set on for a while. But then we concluded that as we continue to sit on this, for anybody out there, as you sit on what God has given you and placed in your heart to do, you not doing it is robbing them of their deliverance.
Right.
Absolutely.
And it's so important for us to keep processing, keep progressing forward, because there's companies all around the world that need something that God has given us to share with the world. So
let me say this too to those that are sitting on the gift, like you just said. Stop waiting until you feel worthy before you do it. Listen, we're talking about marriage, but listen, we talked about divorce. You know how many times throughout our 23 years, at least once a year, the first 10 years, probably every month.
Right.
The first 2 years was ridiculous.
Like oh my Lord. She's like, we getting divorced. She's like, you're yellow, you're short, you're ugly. Listen, don't wait till you feel worthy. Don't wait till you feel worthy, because even right now, we might not feel worthy even talking about marriage, because, you know, we just fought last week.
Right.
Hitting them
Right. These are the experiences that kind of make us who we are. Right. These are the experiences that the kids see, and they realize, Mom and Dad wasn't perfect, But I can
Yeah.
make it through this.
And we
You know,
Yes.
we made it.
Yes.
we're good. Let's keep
Yes.
going. We love you guys. We appreciate
Love
it.
you
God
too.
bless you.
All right. God
Bye,
bless
guys.
you. Take care.
Happy day.
Yeah, I want just a little bit of love, a little bit of love. Yeah, I